Welcome to the 5-Year You podcast, a show dedicated to helping you become the best version of yourself one day at a time. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Kat, and we promise to keep it raw, real, and relatable.
Are you ready to grow? Hi, and welcome to the show. Today's episode is called Finding Your Tribe, and it's our third of 5 in a series of coaching calls that we take our clients through when they start working with us. This is all about the social circle in the layers of life. Kat, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for this one because
Me too.
I think social stuff is something we all feel like we could do better with. I think the pandemic and all that stuff kind of shifted a lot of priorities, and making friends is our most popular episode. And I think this is one that will really help clarify that for a lot of people. And I'm really looking forward to getting into it.
I agree. And before we get started, I wanted to say that if you are just tuning in to our podcast, we actually are doing something a little bit different today in that we are making this series of 5 videos. And that's because we take our coaching clients through 5 weeks of inner work to uncover all of the different parts of themselves, right? So the first video, which was 2 episodes ago, is about your soul, finding what speaks to you, finding your purpose in this life. Last week's video is on the self, and that is all about how to prioritize yourself, your mental, your emotional, your spiritual, and your physical well-being. And then today is about your social circle. So that includes your most intimate relationships like your spouse or your partner, your children, and then, of course, who you surround yourself with and how that impacts you. What we teach at 5-Year You is that authenticity is the pathway to happiness. And so we teach our clients to make decisions from the inside, from what they really want. And that's why this episode is important, because so many of us are hanging out with people, doing work, with partners, doing all of these things that are really not in alignment with what we actually want to do, who we actually want to spend time with. And we give people the courage to reshape their social circles or even rebuild them or reconnect with people they've lost touch with because life gets busy. So if you're just tuning in, you might want to go back and start with the first episode so that it makes more sense. But otherwise, let's get going.
All right. Well, there's 4 aspects of social that we find. There's friends, family, community, and intimacy. And I think the best one to start with is friends, because I think that one is, as we grow up, we have our friend circle in school, and you and I both have been reading Mel Robbins' book, The Let Them Theory, and she talks about the great scattering, which is like we kind of get through the school years, and then all the people that we were forced to be around or got to be around on a regular basis all go their separate ways, and then we're left to try to find friends. And it's really hard because most of us don't want to be alone, so we want to find people right away. And so we kind of become a chameleon often where, oh, you like doing this on Friday nights? Okay, well, I'll go do that because that beats not being alone or not doing this thing that I want to do with nobody else. So I'm going to go do this. When you start from the inside out, and what I just explained was very much an outside in, like I want to have friends, so I'm going to make myself whoever I need to be in this moment. I was definitely very guilty of that. But when I came from the inside out, when I knew who I was and how I wanted to show up in this world right now, I got clear on the types of people I wanted to be around.
Yeah. I think that's really important. And again, we've said already, our most popular episode is how to find friends as adults. I think a lot of people are feeling isolated and lonely. And one of the hardest things is that we compare ourselves to others. And so I am a natural introvert, very indoorsy, very much a book lover and a lover of quiet time. And so for much of my life, I have felt kind of left out, like sort of the not fun one. But it was always a catch-22 because I felt like I was not the fun one, but I was not fun based on other people's definition of that. So as I've gotten older, now that I'm in my 30s, I have come to accept who I am. I have connected with other like-minded people, but I know that there's a lot of people out there who felt the same, who maybe felt like they didn't fit in, or maybe they were an old soul, or maybe they weren't into going to clubs and partying, or maybe they were into that, too much, and maybe that tribe didn't support them. And now they want to find people who are more motivated or driven career wise. I don't know. But I still, even now, even doing this job, I will still look at other people's pictures. I have a cousin who I love, who I grew up with, and she is a natural extrovert. And she has a very close group of girlfriends and of other moms at her kids' school. And they go on like girls' trips together, and they're, always throwing baby showers for each other and all these things. And every time I look at it, I'm like, wow, I don't have that. But I also I don't know. It's also just kind of not me. And so part of the exercise that we take our clients through is to really sit down and think like, who are the people you actually want to be around? What are the things you actually want to talk about? Maybe you get around a group of moms and all they talk about is the Real Housewives, and all you want to do is, talk about your kids, or, maybe have deeper, more vulnerable conversations. It might not be your tribe. And so part of this is just asking yourself those questions like, wait, do I actually want to be friends with that group? Do I actually want to have a huge group of people to go on a trip with? Or do I just want like 2 or 3 really close friends?
I think you speak to a really big painful point with fear of missing out and stuff like that. I think a lot of times we look at these things on social media, or we hear about them for people that did stuff that we weren't included in. And we think we do a lot of self-hating, like, what did I do wrong? Why am I not like this? But that's the wrong path to go down. The right path to go down is the one you just said, is this who I actually want to be with? Do I want like a group of 10 people? I can barely keep up with the 5 good friends that I have right now.
Exactly.
And it's okay to, I think so much we've gotten caught up with the follower counts of life from social media. And that is a quantity approach to life, which is very much an outside in type of response. Going from the inside out, when you show up and you understand when we talk about intimacy, we'll get into that a little more, but with your friends, how intimate do you want to be with them? Do you want to share your deepest thoughts, or are you kind of I'll use a guy term, like, a beer and hockey Friday night kind of guy, which I tried doing and I never felt like I fit in, and the people were all wonderful, but it just wasn't me. And the more you do that and you don't honor yourself, the more you start feeling like you just don't fit in. You just keep reinforcing the stereotype of yourself that, I'm not fitting in here. Maybe I don't fit in anywhere because everybody I know enjoys doing this, but it's like, no, you haven't acknowledged who you are. And once you start doing that, the right people show up.
That's exactly right. And I want to encourage people, if you're sort of on this journey, or this is really common with moms, that they have babies and then like their whole life changes and they get really overwhelmed with all of those new responsibilities. And the thing that goes to the wayside is like keeping up with, friends and checking in on them. And then there's guilt because then you feel like a bad friend, and there's a whole thing. So I want to tell you, if you want to improve this aspect of your life or have deeper friendships, it's never too late to start. And you can always reach back out to people who you had a good connection with in the past. And you can always rekindle things. It takes effort. And you have to be at a point in your life where you have the energy to put the effort into that. But it is possible. So I just wanted to be encouraging about that before we move to the next category.
Yeah, I would like to also add on to that, where that's why we do the 5-year plan, the 5-year thing, because knowing the stage of life you're in, especially as a parent, makes a big difference. If you have kids that are 0 to 5, they need you a lot more than the kids that are, 15 to 20, and if you have older kids and you're trying to make friends with somebody that's younger, understand that timing may not be right for them. And that doesn't reflect badly upon you. It just means that, you might have to give that one a little more time.
Exactly.
So the next one is family. And this can be the greatest thing for some people. It can be really hard for others. Kat, we want to start us off?
Well, I'll say that we've talked to a lot of people, and just because both of us are old souls, a lot of people open up to us about their families. And, some people have really wonderful close families that they go on trips with and have Sunday night family dinner. Other people have families that check in, and some people are completely estranged from their family. And so one thing that really helped me when I was doing just a lot of therapy and self-improvement work is that all of us get the family that we're meant to have as children. We all get the parents we're meant to have because each situation teaches us lessons and it helps us become who we are today. You would not be who you are today without the family that you had, for better, for worse. That is what shaped you. It makes some people more resilient, makes some people more loving. It makes some people more upset and angry at the world. And each person is on their own path. But once you're an adult, you get to choose your family. You get to choose how often you interact. You get to choose whether or not you're going to let family members, guilt trip you into certain things. You get to decide who you spend Thanksgiving dinner with, who you spend Christmas morning with. And this is the part a lot of people struggle with, because there are people who maybe don't like their family dynamics, or they're unhappy with it. They're so afraid to change it because they don't want to lose their family. They don't want to lose the connections that they have with their blood relatives. And the truth is that your relatives don't want to lose connection with you either. It's just sometimes setting boundaries with people or changing a dynamic that's been one way for a long time can be really hard for family members. So this is kind of like a sticky part for a lot of people in the coaching process. And we're not here to tell you what to do, tell you to, make your friends your family, but we're here to offer support and maybe a different perspective on like how you're actually in charge of who your family is and who you spend your time with.
I think that's the biggest thing, is taking ownership of your family, past, present, and moving into the future, and being able to see that, the family I had is the family I had. I can't really change that. There might be some lessons that I haven't learned yet. That's one thing. In today's day, though, you're an adult. You get to choose. And if you have somebody that doesn't make you feel good in those interactions, you can't alter the dynamic. You don't have to stay in the push-pull dynamic that you might have, or the guilt loop, or whatever it is. But this is why coaching comes in handy, is so that you can have somebody to come to that's independent of all of this, that doesn't care what you do on Thanksgiving Day or Christmas Day so much as we care about what you care about. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. We don't have an agenda for you except for your happiness. So when it comes to family, for myself, I've gone through iterations with my family. Growing up, my sister was autistic. It was just her and I. And I kind of made the friends on my street my family. And my older brother is still somebody I keep in touch with today. I'm talking with him later today. And I think as we go through life, I think I had to let go of, like, family had to be DNA related. Mm-hmm. To family is the people I choose to spend most of my time with, or the people that I want to label as my family, because they love me unconditionally and I love them unconditionally. And that's a really big distinction, I think, for a lot of people when it comes to finding the family that fits, which is a really good alliteration.
Yeah. And, one thing that Andrew and I have found is that it's very possible that the people who become your family are not in your city. It's very possible that you'll feel more of a connection with people who you meet in different groups, Andrew and I met at a conference. We live in 2 different countries, and, we are each other's best friend, family, we're everything, right?
Thing to each other, yeah.
And, there was no Andrew where I grew up in South Louisiana, right? So sometimes things can take you by surprise, but it's important to put yourself in those situations, right? So, for example, we met at a money blogger conference, and I think a lot of people felt like that their first time going to that conference, like, oh my God, there's other money nerds, there's other people who are like, I can talk about money to these people, everyone, like all my friend group at home or my family, they get so uncomfortable when I want to talk about money, and look, we can do it all day long, we can nerd out, and like, so exciting. So there could be a book club by you. There could be some sort of I don't know. What are clubs people have? All I know is book club.
Well, I think as far as like finding those family members, I think those are ones that, like we met and then it evolved over time. But putting yourself in places that you enjoy is a great way to do that, whether it's online through the stuff that you like if you like, I don't know, fixing old cars or collecting certain kind of collectibles. For me, I love going to personal development conferences because I really do feel that I resonate with people there. I know, Kat, you're the same way. And it's just about getting around the things that you like more in a social setting. So I know a lot of people will go to Comic-Con because they love to dress up as their favorite character. And that's how they've met some of the best friends that they'll ever have. And those people ultimately are their family. They're the people that they go to in hard times. And they just find they're good people. And that's what we want for you, is to find these right people for yourself and to let it happen and unfold. It's not a great idea to find somebody that you think might be a good fit in the mall and go, "Hey, do you want to be my family?" It usually doesn't go the way you want it to.
Don't
Um,
get kidnapped, guys.
don't get
It's fine.
kidnapped. Don't kidnap anybody else. These are just some
Basic
basics.
rules.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't go
Well,
up to somebody and say, "I want to spend a lot of time with you," when you haven't told them your name yet. These are all things that
yeah.
you learn from our mistakes. No, I'm just kidding. When it comes to family, though, give yourself permission to branch out. I think the best thing that I did was loosen the definition of my family. And I have had people, two of my closest friends live, besides you, of course, Kat, they live in Atlanta and I'm in Canada.
Yeah.
And, they've both told me, like, you're the only person I can come to with all these things. And like, I've never had I never had a good family growing up. You are my family.
No.
And I wasn't trying to make people my
Yeah, it
family. I was
just
just showing
happens.
up. Yeah, it just kind of happens over time. So allow yourself to be surprised with how this unfolds. But again, you got to be clear on who you are and how you want to show up in the world. We often say that the people you spend most time with, the 5 people you spend the most time with, are the ones you're going to develop the characteristics of, and you're going to be kind of an amalgam of them. And I always think about that because I can look back in my life growing up as a kid, when you're all smushed together in schools, like you don't get a lot of choices when you're in a small school. And sometimes you pick badly. And I can see how those things happen. But as an adult, when you know that, you start to put yourself in situations and you can look at people and go, do I want to be more like you?
Yeah.
And it's not so much a judging thing. It's just an awareness of like, wow, you're really kind. I want to be more kind. Or,
Right.
wow, you're really abrasive and rude to people and I don't want to be that way. So
Yeah. It
I'm
does
going
make
to,
me feel good.
yeah, it just doesn't make me feel, but it's okay. I think that's a really good test as you go through this discovery phase and go like, who do I, no barriers, no borders, no time differences. Who would I want to spend the most time with? And that's kind of how you start to pick your family and your friends in this situation.
Well, the next category is community. And I feel like we have like kind of touched on community as well. But what would you say is the differentiating factor, or like if someone wanted to focus on this, like what does that mean to you?
Community can mean a bunch of different things. For some people, it's the people you live with on your street or in your block. For other people, it's those people that are not in those two pillars, right? I have some wonderful neighbors. I like talking with them. I will help them when they need anything. I wouldn't consider them like my friends, and they're not if they're not my friends, they're not my family. They're kind of in that community aspect. For
Makes
everybody,
sense.
it's different, right? I mean, we call our group the Five Tribe because anybody that's listening to this show is like they're a kindred spirit wanting to grow and, discover themselves more. Whereas, we're not in all their families. We're
That makes
not, we're not in their, we might be their friends, but it's a different dynamic where it's like, I consider friends to be somebody that I'm actively talking to. Like I'm actively talking with you. I have several friends that I speak with on an ongoing basis. And that ongoing basis might be once a year. I think that's another thing with these definitions is like you get to make them as they are. But community is like what kind of energy do you want to put yourself around? Do you want to be around people that are helpful? Do you want to be around people that are thoughtful? Do you want to be around thought leaders? Do you want to be around people that are a lot of fun? Do you want to put people who are really active and outdoorsy? There's a ton of communities that you can find online. So that's really how I look at community. Kat, what would you say?
Yeah, I think that too. And I think we have this as a separate category. For me, it is important to have community in your geographic area. And again, these don't have to be people that you're like best friends with. These don't have to be people you have Thanksgiving dinner with. But for example, we just moved to Chicago. Like 7 months ago. Can't believe it's been that long already. But my kids started a new school, and I knew, being a solo parent to them, like I knew that it was important for me to at least get other moms' phone numbers to, just in case something happened, to just communicate with them. And, it sort of naturally happens as the kids want to hang out with each other. These are not people that I'm having coffee with or dinner with or anything like that. They are people, my kids are at their houses. And so I want them to know I exist and say, like, thanks for having them. Thanks for feeding them pizza. Thanks. Is it okay that my kid's at your house right now? Like, did you know my kid is there? That kind of thing. So, and again, the neighbors thing too. Like, again, I'm not best friends with my next door neighbor, but when I was visiting Andrew last week in Canada, she collected all my packages for me. Right. And so it's just good in an emergency, in a friendly way, to have things in your immediate vicinity that you do some community building things. For some people are very into like volunteering, they're on boards of their animal shelter, like whatever that means to you. For some people, it's a huge part of their life to make a positive impact on their immediate community. So again, we go through this in coaching, we find out what's important to you, or we find out what's missing, what you wish you had, and then we give advice and we make a plan to start, slowly adding these things into your life.
Yeah. And I think one of the big things in our sessions is asking people what kind of community they want. Because I don't think a lot of times we really think about it. We just kind of, when we start out life, we're on the street we're on, and that's our that's our first community, and we just assume that's how it always is. But the world keeps changing, and I agree with you wholeheartedly about, knowing the people around you and having numbers in case you need somebody to pick something up or, you need help or whatever. Those are great examples of why we all need community. And from a fundamental needs point, you feel better mentally when you are a part of something bigger than you. And that can be family, but for most of us, it's community. And that community can be a cause or anything like that. I mean, I was just thinking for myself, like, well, what other communities do I have? I'm like, well, I've got my kids' sports community. I've got, the parents at school community. Like, it doesn't always have to be this one label, but it's also bringing the awareness to the community and going, is this what I want to be a part of? And sometimes you have to, I don't have any say on who's in the hockey team community, and they're all good people, but you have to kind of be aware that sometimes you're in communities that you may not be right for you, but it's just a season that you have to go through.
Right. Okay. Well, there's one more category in this layer of life, in this social layer of life, and that is intimacy.
It is. And so intimacy is something that, if for a lot of people, I know for myself originally, when we were coming up with this, it kind of made me go, oh, what does that mean? And to me, intimacy is how you want to present yourself to these people, to your spouse, your kids, your friends, your family, your community. Some people are, if we were to rate intimacy from 1 to a 10, 10 being you share everything with that person, and 1 being like you just give a nod to somebody in the hallway. I think more people are below the 5 mark than above it for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think that is partially because we want to make sure we fit in. With the people we're around, and we're afraid of rejection. And that's just ingrained in our DNA. There is this aspect, though, of knowing who you are and owning your truth, and then walking into places. And when somebody says something that puts you off, you can understand that, first of all, you know who you are, so you're able to present yourself. in a way that makes sense, but you're also able to share with these people in a way that feels right for you. And it's different for everyone. I know, Kat, you and I, we're 10s with each other. We share every thought that we have. I have other people that are like, 2 or 3s because I will happily share it with them, but I know that's not where they're at. So I would define intimacy as the amount of yourself you're willing to let be seen by those around you.
Ooh, I think that's a really good definition.
Thank you.
It is.
Well, I am wearing glasses today, so for you, those of you listening, so I was bound to get something semi-smart.
Yeah, intimacy is closeness. It's how much of your soul are you willing to bear to another person? Because all of us, right? Again, I just gave the examples of the moms. Like, I'm not going to text someone and say, oh, my kid's at your house. Oh, by the way, do you want to talk about, our childhood wounds? Right. I mean, because we don't have that level of intimacy, of vulnerability. But vulnerability is the key to creating a depth in relationships. Even for our romantic relationships, there are people who have been married for 30 years and their intimacy is a 3 and not a 10. And of course, intimacy encompasses everything, right? All levels of closeness. But what I'm saying is people could be married for 30 years and be at a 3 because they don't understand or know the inner workings of someone else's life. Maybe they don't know what their spouse is struggling with at work, or maybe they don't know that their spouse is deeply anxious about their children's happiness or something like that. Be with somebody every single day and not have any intimacy with them, not have any closeness, not have any vulnerability or a depth of understanding of their soul and who they are and what makes them them. And we're not here to force anybody to have deeper, intimate relationships, but I can say that having them in your life really adds to the quality of it. It adds to you feeling supported in this life. And a lot of people can say, oh, I have all of these friends, but they might not be above a 5 with them on this. Maybe you're like motivating to your friends, but they have no idea that you're struggling, right?
Right. And that is a really good example of that level of of a 5 intimacy where, you're with people, but they don't really know who you are. And I will akin that to a lot of times you feel alone in a crowded room. And it's because you're craving that extra, that depth. I'm going to share something personal with this because, I don't know boundaries. And Kat, you know this already, but when I was looking at intimacy, I really did have to ask myself how I wanted to show up with a lot of different people in my life. And everybody's different, right? Like I'm not going to, like you said, I am not going to share my soul with the guy sitting next to me on the plane. I might, you never know.
I'm like, you totally would, but
I
anyway.
totally would, and I totally have. So, but but then they open up to me, and that's where I'm going with this. I felt very much at a 3-4 with my parents over the years, and I didn't like it. I acknowledged that it was something in myself, and I kept hoping that something outside of me from the outside was going to come in. And then I realized that if I wanted to have better relationships with my mom and dad, I needed to be the one that opened up about the things that were going on with me, the things that were bugging me, the things from our past that needed to be healed. And as soon as I started doing that, as soon as I gave myself permission and the strength, and you've always been really good at supporting me with these things, I was able to rewrite the relationships with these people in a very short time. We're talking like weeks of addressing things. And that's only because I don't see them every day. They live a little bit away from me. But in being able to allow myself to be intimate and know who I am and know like I need these things, I was able to make deeper connections faster. So sometimes when you're looking at the intimacy thing, and this is going back to the friends and the family and the community, sometimes if you want to have it happen, you've got to be the one to take the first step. Nobody else is going to typically. And I know that's really scary. It was scary for me to do it with my parents who love me dearly. It was scary for me to do it with everybody, but it gets easier. And the benefit of it is that in all the times I've opened up, it's always been a positive outcome, even if the outcome wasn't what I was hoping for. And what I mean by that is, sometimes you open up to somebody and they just kind of, they shift and you're like, great. Now I know that I can't talk about these kinds of things with my neighbor or, the pilot. He really didn't want me in the cockpit that day talking to him about those things and just kind of moving on. He's like, dude, I'm trying to land the plane here. I'm like, yeah, but how was your childhood? Dude, come on. So it's just about giving yourself permission, and you don't have to, everything's a step-by-step process that we teach at 5-Year U. You don't have to be all of the things at once, but just knowing where you want to go is how you take steps, is why we get used to taking small steps to get there, because that's how you're going to get there regardless, is taking the small steps one at a time.
Yeah. So I hope this has been helpful to everybody. If you'd like to work with us or you'd like somebody to walk with you through this process, we'd be delighted to meet you and to help you. You can just send us an email at hello@5yearu.com, and we'd be so happy to hear from you and to see if there might be a way that we can help.
Exactly. And I guess that's it for this episode. The next one is going to be substance. And I like this one because this is kind of where the stuff and the time and everything kind of starts to come in. And it's so much better when you come at it from the inside out, which we will get into next week. Yeah. All right. We will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Hey guys, quick disclaimer. We're podcasters on the internet. If you need to seek professional help, please go see your healthcare professional.